Hello and good morning. My name is Dawn Lane, and I'm the Program Manager for the Massey Learning Institute. Welcome. First, let me apologize for our late start. You know how it is. We had some technical difficulties. We're never expecting them, but please, thank you so much for bearing with us. And we have a wonderful session for you today. Our webinar is entitled Connect, Collaborate, and Belong, Three Keys to Building an Agile Organization. And yes, when things like what happened this morning took place, we just have to pivot and move forward. So the ability to easily collaborate and communicate amongst teams is more critical than ever. But many organizations struggle to keep frontline employees, and in fact, employees in general, connected. And employees also want the ability to connect and engage in their lives and in their jobs in meaningful ways. So this is called having business agility. But transforming into an agile organization can have its challenges if it's not planned and communicated correctly. I am not the expert, but we have with us today someone who can explain all of this to you. Our presenter, Mrs. Julie Turney, will discuss with you today what is an agile organization, what does it look like, what are some of the challenges if it's not planned correctly, what could happen. And Julie is no stranger to a lot of us here. You would have seen her bio, but Julie is at heart, she is a people experience architect, and I just love that. She has 16 years of experience in the HR field, and she is the brainchild of HR at Heart Consulting, Inc. Yes, she's an author, a TEDx speaker, and she's written a book that I think we all should really read. It's called The Confessions of an HR Pro, Stories of Defeat and Triumph. And what I want to do now is just let Julie begin and let her take us through the ways that we can connect and collaborate and make this a fantastic journey. Julie, welcome.
Thank you so much, Dawn, for that wonderful introduction. Good morning to everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I know that this is a wide audience, and so I do recognize our audience members who are joining us from Colombia today. Mi español es muy pequeño, but buenos días y gracias por recibirme. Sorry, thank you for having me. Yes, I told you my Spanish is small, but I do try. So I want to just get into sharing my presentation with you, and we will get going. We are talking today about business agility. What is it? Why does it matter? How can we as organizations connect, collaborate, and create a space of belonging that everyone can feel appreciated in our organization? And why does it even matter? So Dawn has already set the objectives for today, so I'm just going to get right into our information. Change. Change is constant. We know that many times people say the only thing that you know for sure is change, death, and taxes. Those are the only constants that we have in life. When we think about change and how our world has changed so rapidly over the last 3 years, with all the different things that are happening, organizations have had to pivot, have had to become more agile. And so when we talk about business agility or organizations becoming agile, we're talking about the quick response that organizations make towards rapid changes that are happening in our marketplace or happening in our environment. And we have seen a lot of changes in our world today. Would you agree? When you think about our world and the way that we live and all the things that have happened to us just within a snapshot of 3 years, we've gone through a global health crisis. We've gone through political unrest, economic downturns, natural disasters, and all of these things have impacted you as an organization at Massey in tremendous ways. It's impacted your stocks, it's impacted your pricing, it's impacted your people, and all of these things have caused you to have to think about running your business in a different way. So organizations who are looking to build business agility to be agile, not do agile, strongly look at ways that they can digitize and automate processes. They're constantly looking for ways to innovate, create excellent products and services that will help their customers to stay, to remain loyal, to have a great impact on the people inside of the business, and help you deliver great customer value at speed. You are constantly, as an organization, responding to disruption, and that is something that is hugely remarkable and admirable for Massey as an organization. So when we're talking about agile, being agile and not doing agile, what are we talking about? Well, most organizations operate on the left side of this diagram, which is the waterfall method. Many organizations look at what they need, they then design it, they develop it, they test it, and then they put it out and they leave it. What happens when when you do that? A lot of times you're not able to stay in pace with the many changes that are happening. How would we have dealt with things like COVID and effects that our business has had to things like shipments and stocks and people being sick? And how do we deal with all of these things if we continue to just look at things as a straight and narrow? Many organizations who are agile and being agile, not just doing agile, are very forward thinking, and they are operating their organization in a cyclical way. So when we look at what is required, not just by our external customers, but by our internal customers, we design products and services that will benefit the people who we are serving. But then we develop them, but then we test them and we deploy them and we review them and we come back. And that's a constant cycle. The way I like to explain it the best is when I talk about my cell phone. We all have cell phones, and every once in a while we get that thing that pops up and alerts us and says, your cell phone requires an update. Why are they constantly making updates to your cell phone? Because they recognize that there may be bugs, things that are not working properly when they release the phone, when they gave their last iteration. And so they go back and they test it, they redevelop it, they deploy it, they review it, and when it comes back with more bugs, they then fix that as well. And so as organizations, we need to recognize the importance of operating in the same manner. When we release products and services in our supermarkets, in our machine areas, all the different parts of our business, whether it's the insurance, we look at different ways that the community is responding to the products and services we offer. What's working, what's not working. And if it's not working, then you change it. And you want to continuously be in that state of reviewing, testing, experimenting, releasing, just like our cell phone and computer companies. So which parts of our organization generally go with the agile ways of working? Well, according to a study that was done by Ernst & Young in 2020, they highlighted that most organizations start with their IT departments. So just as I mentioned with the cell phone experience, the same thing happens in most organizations. They start with their IT departments and help them to become more agile. They use various agile methodologies, which I will highlight to you a little later, in order to help them respond faster to changes that are happening within the organization, within the business, to help improve products and services and the customer experience, whether that's internal or external customers. But is the IT department, excuse me, the only department that requires to be agile? Definitely not. All of the departments of your organization can adopt agile methodologies. While you may not do it the same way as the IT department, you can still develop ways of being agile. So various business units, whether it's finance or marketing and sales, whether it's your HR departments or your admin teams, everyone has the ability to be agile within the organization. So when we think about agile and how it works across an organization, what are we talking about? How does this approach impact your business? Well, for the most part, when we want to adopt agile ways of working and transform our organization into an agile organization, we fundamentally want to find ways that we can make the people in our organization awesome. We want to find ways that we can help people in our organization be great, open their minds to creativity and innovation. What a wonderful start to this webinar today, that introductory video. And clearly, MLI must have come a very long way in developing how it was going to perform as a group, as a department, to get you the services that you are experiencing today. So think about where MLI started and where MLI is now, and that wonderful video that they were able to produce for you this morning. That happens when you're allowing to make people awesome. Second, you make safety a prerequisite. When we talk about safety, what we're talking about is psychological safety, the freedom to speak freely without repercussions, making sure that we allow that freedom in our teams so that when people have ideas and they share them, whether you use them or not, people know that they've been heard, whether the idea is tabled or expanded on and developed, that people have that opportunity to do that. Third, we want to experiment and learn rapidly. We want to embrace failure. We want to be in a space where we can try different services and see how people respond to it, whether it's our external customers or our internal customers as teams. And so an agile organization, taking that approach, will learn fast and move on. In my organization, I always tell my team, let's fail fast and move on. Let's fail because failure is important. With failure comes learning. But then let's take those learnings, let's not stay down in the fact that we failed. Let's embrace that failure and use that to propel us to move on to the next thing. Fourth, we deliver value continuously. In other words, we're no longer doing 6-month projects while people are waiting 6 months for something to come through the pipeline, but we are mitigating our risk and doing it in small incremental ways that will help us to deliver our products, let people review them, see how they feel about them, come back, make changes. And then last but not least, fifth, we are leading by example. So all of these things as leaders in organization, we want to make sure that we're helping our people to recognize that they have the ability to create, innovate in a safe space as we continue to deliver value in a safe way. Well, let's talk about Massey for a little bit. So I took a deep dive into your annual report a couple of days ago. Huge organization, 13,000 plus employees across 15 countries with 60 plus companies, all integrated in these different ways. You have retail, gas and products, motor and machine, finance services, and other investments that you're making. I know insurance, but you also have pharmaceutical. And so you have a lot going on as an organization. It might seem a little bit daunting to think that you could make an agile transformation. But if organizations like Hewlett-Packard, Google, can do these things, even though who are much bigger, have lots more people working all around the world, but they can adopt agile methodologies and be an agile organization, Massey can certainly do it too. And to be honest, as I'm looking at Massey and I work with different departments through MLI, I recognize even if you don't own it or claim it or state it as for what it is, Massey is an organization that is truly agile. So one of the ways that we focus on creating an agile organization is by the way we connect with each other. Connection is important to agility. When you think about all the different organizations that you have within Massey as a group, how you connect and understand each other and how each part of your organization works in tandem is really important. It is the first step to creating a truly agile organization. It's a great way to find ways for people to develop and grow, upskill and reskill across the organization. So a true agile organization collaborates. They connect their people. We collaborate. We work together. We solve problems as a group, not in isolation. So for example, when I think about HR products and services, like integrating a piece of HR tech, whether it's Lattice or Bamboo HR into my organization, I'm not going to do that in a silo and just purchase a piece of tech because it looks and feels right to me. But I want to know how my people are thinking and feeling about the technology that I'm thinking about integrating. First and foremost, I'm going to work with IT because I want to know from them if this piece of technology can even be integrated into our tech stack as it currently exists. I don't know that. I'm not the expert. So I have to collaborate with IT. I need to know that we're on budget with this project, so I've got to work with finance to understand if there's money to put behind this project. I have to work with marketing so that we can create communication plans on how to put this message out there. I have to work with my senior leadership and key stakeholders up top to make sure that I've got the buy-in from them to even think about putting this project together in the first place. And then I have to work with employees on the ground to see how they're thinking and feeling about the processes that we currently have. What's working, what's not working, what's making them miserable, and how can I make that better? So as an HR department, I already am thinking in an agile way about collaborating with the people that I work with to help make my department and the goals and objectives that I have as a department effective, that everyone benefits and knows what's happening from the ground up. And last but not least, we want to create a space of belonging, and that's how we create belonging. That whole process of integrating a piece of HR tech, I've shown the IT team that I want to hear from them. I want to hear from finance. I don't just want to pick something that isn't even within budget to purchase. I want to make sure that my key stakeholders in leadership are on board with what it is that I'm trying to put together. I want to make sure that you as employees on the ground who will be touching and feeling and using this product or service actually think that it's worthwhile and that it's going to make your life a lot easier in terms of the products and services that you are engaging with through HR. And I just use HR as an example, but that could apply to any part of your organization. This is why I say that Massey is already on a great road to being an agile organization, because your values alone speak about it. You clearly show as an organization what matters to you at your core as a group, honesty and integrity, that you respect collaboration. And I love the last one on love and care, that you actually create a space of belonging. And these are the three things within your values that already show that you are looking to create a space where people can connect, collaborate, and belong as an organization and become a true organization that is agile. Lastly, I want to share with you the agile transformation, how it can impact your organization in a positive or a negative way. Everyone has to be on the same page when it comes to an agile transformation. We can't just be doing it for the sake of doing it because we're seeing other organizations doing it and we think that it will fit our bill. We need to also make sure that as we are looking towards transforming our organization in an agile way, that we recognize it is a mindset. We need to make sure, as I said, that everyone is on the same page, that the vision is clear for everyone, that the vision resonates across the organization. And then we also need to make sure we understand who needs to be involved in this process as we work on restructuring and becoming a more agile organization. We need to make sure that as we do this, we have everyone involved in this process. We are connecting, we are collaborating, we are creating a space of belonging in order for an agile transformation to be successful. So no more hippo decisions. When we create an agile organization, it's not just the highest paid person's opinion that matters when we are creating decisions that are going to impact the entire organization, which then extend outward to the overall customer experience in our communities around the world. So in Agile HR, which is a space that I operate a lot, there are 4 fundamentals to the Agile HR Manifesto that I like to share with organizations because I think they apply across to anyone. First things first, in the Agile Manifesto, it says that we put people over process and tools. We think about the people experience first. Excuse me. We think about the people experience first and how what we're putting in place is going to impact our people. We experiment, we test, we prototype, and we put things out in small iterations. So we're experimenting to make sure that people will feel happy with what we're putting out. We respond to change rather than follow a plan. So we're ready to pivot whenever there's something happening in the environment that's causing us discomfort that needs to be dealt with right away. And we recognize the importance of collaborating instead of creating rigid relationships. So I want you to think very carefully about how you do these things and how you put these things together. There are lots of ways for us to prioritize and create projects and services that are going to impact our people that we're working with and our overall customer experience. I'd like to share a little bit of tech with you that I use or that I share with other clients when I'm helping them with their agile transformations. So Asana is one, which is a project management tool. It's a great way to see projects up front and to assign them to other members of your team and to see how things are working within your team. Next up is Trello, which is what I use. I love Trello because you can move things along very easily. I create 4 boards, which is, I have a backlog, which is all the stuff we want to do, the to-do, the doing, and the done. And we categorize those, we assign them to team members. They're able to update them within the system so we could see it in real time. We're able to set deadlines, guidelines, and we're able to put different documents and products into the cards as we build them, but we can see what's happening in real time through Trello. And last one is MindMeister, which is a great brainstorming app that you can use to actually brainstorm and in real time and even across different jurisdictions. So if you're online and you're doing this remotely, you can also use this to brainstorm on different projects as a group. Additional resources, I love to share books. So one of my favorite books, I read this book at least once a year, is Agile People. And this talks about how you create an agile organization, how you create agile leaders, performance management processes, but also just how you can be more agile as leaders in your organization. And the last one is called The Agile Leader, How to Create an Agile Business in the Digital Age. This is another wonderful book. Highly recommend that you read that as well. So how do we enable business agility? So one of the ways that I love, I'm a very visual person. And so for me, these little posters with, in a nutshell, help you to see how you can go about creating a more agile approach to your business. I will share these resources with MLI so they can pass them on to you as well. They are free downloads. This company is called Dandy People, and they have this wonderful snapshot in a nutshell of how you can go about enabling business agility, creating a human and flexible organization for more value. And this one is about how you can help your HR departments and other admin departments to become more agile. But it's a very exciting process. It's a very exciting thing to do. And I think that you guys would really benefit from exploring agile a little bit further as an organization. Like I said, you're pretty much already there in a lot of the things that you do across your business, but you can take it to the next level as an organization and complete your transformation and be a true leading agile organization across the Caribbean. I hope that you found this information useful today. Thank you so much for having me again. And if you want to connect with me, you can find me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under the same handle. I am Julie Turney. I also share HR tips and tricks on TikTok. And you can find me on Instagram at HR Heart, as well as Disrupt HR Caribbean, and my podcast, HR Sound Off. Thank you so much. And Dawn, back over to you.
Well, Julie, thank you. You know, it's amazing that you are everywhere. And it is hard not to be able to find you, which is great. So I hope everyone took a little note of at least one of those areas where they could find you. And yes, on Instagram, you have the cutest little blurbs. What's the one that I like? If you offset me, I can offset everybody. I think that is so cool. So something that you just said. So I want to really thank you for the presentation. And I always like how you share the cool technological tips and the gadgets and the various tools that can really help us in working smarter and not harder. And a new term that I learned today, getting away from the hippo decisions. Yeah, that was really cool. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to hand you over to Cherise Brathwaite, and Cherise is going to take you through the questions and any comments that come through from our audience today. Cherise?
Thank you, Dawn. Thank you, Julie. Good morning, everyone. Our first question this morning is from an anonymous person, and it is, what makes a great agile leader?
Oh, that's a really good question. What makes a great agile leader is, first of all, someone, as I mentioned before, who embraces failure and creates psychological safety in their team. So as a leader, you're the kind of person who will allow your team members to share ideas and concepts, even if you can't adopt any of them or all of them, but you give them the safety to be able to do that. A great agile leader is also transparent. Transparency is really important as you want to become a more purposeful and meaningful agile leader. So recognizing that even though you have work on your shoulders, that you can share that with your team to the extent that you can share it. For example, for me, working in HR in organizations in the past, I had a really wonderful leader who was very transparent. And even though it was HR, she made sure that we knew how to do her job in the event that she wasn't around. She made sure that we knew who the key stakeholders were, and when they came around and asked certain questions, how we would respond to them. She knew the little quirks about them, that she made sure that we knew them as well, so that we didn't say certain things or do certain things. She showed us how to present information to them and so on. So a leader always, and I think I always remember this little blurb from a Netflix series that I watched called Emily in Paris. And the first episode, Emily ends up in Paris because her boss gets pregnant, can't go to Paris. She sends her instead, and she says to her, I'm not sending you to replace me. I'm not sending you to replace me. I'm sending you to fill my shoes. In other words, I want you to do what I do and just as good, if not better. That's what makes a really great agile leader.
Thank you so much. Our next question is from an anonymous person, and it reads, while I believe collaboration is key as well, how do we navigate the crabs in a barrel cutthroat behavior? Some persons are more focused on getting ahead, but not as a team, but mainly individually.
Yeah, so I think it's really important to understand your people. And that's why I always recommend, as an HR professional, so my HR hat goes on now, I always recommend to people to understand your team dynamics. Whether you do a DISC assessment to see what the different personalities are in your team, or as you recruit and build your team and you do psychometric tests to determine what your team needs from what your team doesn't need. Your team may have in a bunch of collaborators, and then one person who isn't a collaborator may throw off the whole dynamic. So you need to make sure that as you're recruiting and filling those positions, you're making sure you're getting the right personality types to build your team. A lot of times we just build teams on the fact that we have a position that we need to fill, but you don't take the time to really go through understanding who your team is, and then what other personality types do you need in your team. Your team may have a bunch of, you yourself as a leader may be a starter but not a finisher, and then you have other people in your team who are starters too, and you wonder why you can't get nothing done because you ain't got enough finishers on your team. So understanding the importance of the psychometrics of how you build your team is very important. The other thing too is holding your team members accountable. I cannot stress this enough. Accountability, even though you're creating a space of collaboration, connection, and belonging, you still need to have a space that holds people accountable. And that's why I always recommend the technology that I mentioned before, things like Trello or Asana, where you put the projects in the system, you assign them to everyone. That way everyone can see what's happening in the team, the work that's happening at the same time. And people will feel the accountability because they're like, oh, Lost Boss put a deadline on this. Everybody can see it. There's no more, it's just on my performance review. It's now in a place where everyone has access to it and everyone can see what's going on, what's in progress, what's backlogged, why it's backlogged, and then having constant meetings. So one of the things that happens in IT teams that are agile is that they have these things called daily stand-ups. And basically the daily stand-up is 3 questions. It's, tell me what's on your plate today. Tell me what your problems you're having and any blockers that you're having and any recommendations you have for me to remove them. And once you ask those 3 questions across your team every single day, it might seem like a lot, but it definitely truly does help. So those would be my recommendations. The science is important, the technology is important, the accountability is important.
Thank you so much for sharing those tools as well as tips. Our next question is, how do you continue to be a good leader when you are no longer motivated yourself?
I have, this is going to be the simplest answer I could ever give. You get a coach. You get a coach. When you are feeling demotivated, sometimes if you're a self-starter, you can start yourself, but then other times you're just stuck in a constant hamster wheel. And then I highly recommend getting a coach, getting some support, and finding out the why, or you may even need to go to therapy. Because sometimes there are things that are mentally blocking you, and you need to get to the depth of that and understanding of that. So now I put my coach hat on and I say, you get a coach or you hire a therapist just to help you get to the bottom of what's happening on the inside, deal with that, and then move on.
Okay, thank you for that. Our next question is, what is the most valued in an organization that has implemented agility?
What is most
valued in an organization that has implemented agility?
So when organizations go through agile transformations, the most important thing is the people. Making sure that the people that are going through this transformation understand what's happening at its core and why the transformation is being made. But that first part in the Agile HR Manifesto is also the first part in the Agile Manifesto, which is that you put people over process. So that's where the key value is. It takes people to drive an organization. An organization, one person could say, I want to have an organization and this is why I want to have it. But if you don't understand the people behind it and what they are doing to drive change and help you to justify your existence, you're dead in the water. So transformation takes people, and people should always be at the heart of any agile transformation.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mhm.
Our next question is, you spoke earlier about collaboration. What can we do to ensure that the message drills down to the employees and doesn't stay in the C-suite?
The C-suite has to communicate the message. They have to communicate the message, and then leaders under the C-suite have to also communicate the message, and they also have to first remember any transformation, any ability to collaborate comes from a mindset. If you have a leader that doesn't have a collaborative mindset, it will never filter down to the people. So we have to make sure that our leaders are on the same page, our managers, our supervisors are all on the same page about this thing. And then we also have to have courage. Why do we have to have courage? Because if we have leaders who are managers or supervisors who are not filtering down that this is the value that we're trying to create in our organization, you have to have the courage to either A, coach those people and help them to develop that muscle, or B, have to have the courage to let them go so that your organization can grow. It takes courage, but those are the things that you have to do. You have to be able to stand up and say, look, I've tried my best to get this leader on board. It's not happening. We go through progressive discipline because the HR hat goes on, and we say, okay, we can't do this anymore because this is the way our organization is moving. You're either on the bus or you're off the bus, but you can't be hanging out the door. There's not a minibus. There's not a ZR. So you gotta be on the bus. Sorry, Dawn.
Thank you so much for those nuggets.
Mhm.
Our next question is, what is the one thing that needs to change to move a leader from being traditional to becoming an agile leader?
Again, like I said, it's mindset. We have to be able to shift mindsets and help people to recognize the way that we're moving the organization forward. So communication. C-suite must communicate these changes. They must not just only communicate that this is what they want, but it's important to communicate the why behind it. And then let's discuss the how. And then let's discuss the barriers that you're having to accepting that this is the way we want to move forward. And then what can we do to help you to remove those barriers so you can be on the bus with us and move yourself forward and help you to create the best, be the best leader that you want to be. Again, I say coach, recommend coaching, and I also would recommend, if necessary, because the barrier just seems like no matter what you do, you're spinning in mud, then maybe the person may need some additional support through your EAP. But those would be the steps I would say to take.
Okay, thank you for those. Our next question is, how do we create the right environment where managers feel secure, teams collaborate, and learn from each other and are focused on quality?
That's a good question. It starts with a conversation from the top. So it's really important that your C-suite communicate that this is the way that you want to make the change going forward, but that psychological safety starts at the top, right? So remember, in the presentation, I mentioned one of the things that we need to do in order to understand how we make that shift to modern HR or agile or an agile organization is that you have to lead by example. So your leadership has to be able, you have to be able to see that in your leadership. If you think of a parent-child relationship, you know, a lot of times, I have 3 kids, and a lot of times if I say something but I'm not leading by example, then the very early thing they would say is, well, mommy, that's hypocritical because you don't do that, right? Same thing happens in an organization. If you're not seeing your leadership leading by example, then how do you expect it to filter down into the rest of your organization? So leaders have to lead by example. They have to set the pace. They have to set the stage for creating psychological safety. It's a conversation that you need to have across the organization and help everybody to understand what psychological safety is, why it's important to have it in your organization, and how you'd like to see that exist within your teams. And then give your managers or your leaders the opportunity to then learn more about it and then start to incorporate it in their day-to-day lives. It has to be a everyday thing, right? You're building that muscle. It's not something, we're not going to go, okay, today we're a psychologically safe organization, and it just happens like that. No, but it's progressive.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Julie.
I hope I answered it. Sorry.
All right, so we have another question here. I think you touched on this during your presentation, but you could also respond here as well. What is a common goal of an organization when implementing an agile mindset?
So again, when we define business agility, we're talking about the ability to pivot and change at pace. So we all need to understand that every organization may not necessarily decide to do an agile transformation. You have to know if it's going to work for you or not. Understand what agility is, what it means to be an agile organization, and then sit and have that conversation about whether or not this is the right fit for us. Does it make sense for us to make an agile transformation? And if the answer is yes, then we start to look at what are the key fundamentals that we need in order to be successful in our transformation. While we create a plan, we need to get the feedback from the rest of the organization about how they feel about this particular transformation, understand the why behind it, and then communicate it. As you create your plan, you roll it out in an integrative way.
Okay, thank you for sharing those steps. We have another question here. A part of being agile means embracing change. How do we manage our employees who are often resistant to change?
So I think I said this before when we were talking about leaders who are resistant as well. As leaders, you have to, as managers, you have to be courageous. You have to have the conversations about why it's important to make this change, how it's going to impact the organization. You have to help the person see the vision. And if they can't get on board, no matter what you do, you don't want to be spinning in mud too long. If they can't get on board, you have to have the courage to say, if you can't be on board with this, this is the way the organization is moving forward, then we're going to have to let you go. It takes courage, but it's the truth.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. We have another question here. How do you know if your organization is ready to be agile?
So you should see the changes. You should be seeing the differences that are happening in your organization that is moving them to a more agile way of working. How fast did your organization, a good litmus test right now for a lot of people, especially people who are looking for employment, is how did organizations respond to the pandemic? How fast were they able to pivot and be flexible when it came to not just supporting customers, but also employees? And based on that, you can tell if an organization has the ability to be agile, to be flexible, to be collaborative, to create spaces of belonging. So I would say look at the day-to-day. Your annual report, Massey, is a huge, clear indication that you are ripe for an agile transformation, and that you're already in the process. Like I said, I can see in various spaces how agile Massey already is. So just take a look at the annual report and you'll see your organization is quite transparent. I even saw something I have not seen in a while, but you actually have like an average salary in your annual report, which is huge. That's good. shows you're being transparent and willing to share. So just to take a look at your annual report, take a look at how your organization responds to crises like pandemics that we just went through, natural disasters, and you'll clearly be able to tell if your organization is right for agile transformation.
Our next question, I believe you would have touched a little bit on this earlier, but the person states, the organization is its people. If they're not motivated, how do you implement agile, or how do you move to being agile?
Like I said, agile is people over process. So if your people are not motivated, you need to look at your engagement surveys. And I know that Massey does do engagement surveys. If you do customer engagement, for sure you do employee engagement. And you look at those engagement numbers, and that will tell you where the issues are. And as you find those things, then you need to find out the why behind why your employees are so disengaged, and then that helps you to then find out from them what they want. Having the conversations about what they want. The worst thing you could do as an organization is give people what they don't want. You need to find out what they want. So a classic example, one of my favorite examples for this month, is Ernst & Young. So Ernst & Young recently spent $22 million on all of their staff in the US to get them back into the office. Okay, so I do have some issues with this, but from a well-being perspective, I appreciate what they did. They went to their people and they asked them, well, what are some of your biggest challenges about getting back into the office? And they said that some of the challenges they had was that during the pandemic, they adopted pets like dogs, cats, whatever. Some people had pandemic babies. And one of the biggest challenges they had was daycare for their babies, children, and then daycare for their pets. And so what EY did was they spent $22 million in paying for childcare and pet care to help get their people back into the office. The other challenge that a lot of their people had too was with commuting, that it was costing more money because gas gone up. And so they turned around and paid people's gas bills or their train tickets, bus tickets, whatever they needed to get their people back into the office. And they saw a huge result, a high return on investment for that, in that got employees back into the office, work was happening, collaboration was happening. So you have to talk to your people and find out where the discomfort is, and then use your engagement surveys to then create processes, create products and services from an engagement perspective to help re-engage and motivate your people. But it comes in your engagement numbers. Your people are your business. You can't have a business without your people. So if your people aren't happy, you need to find out why. And like I said, my example for the day, for this month, is EY, really great example. I don't know that you want to put $22 million behind it, but if you want to do whatever it takes to get your people excited and engaged in the office, then you spend $22 million.
Thank you so much, Julie, for sharing how we can build the engagement. We have our last final question today, and it is from Narendra. Change is gradual, but it is also constant and developmental. How do you deal with or overcome individuals who are old school and stuck in their belief, mindset, and thinking, and are still in their past, and you are wanting to initiate change?
So are you initiating change to leaders who don't want to change, or employees that don't want to change?
I'm uncertain of how they're posing, but you could answer for both.
For both? Thanks, Cherise. So for employees who don't want to change, like I said earlier, and I think for both it's the same thing. You have to be able to have that conversation around why the change is happening and why that change even matters. And then you have to help them see the importance of embracing change. So I know one of the challenges that we see happening in a lot of organizations is you have a lot of people who don't want to embrace technology. So for example, like I said, You know, we're making changes, we want to move things, we want to be faster, smarter. And so we introduce things like Lattice, which is a performance management platform. Now we put things like that in place because we want to improve the performance management process. We want to make it more transparent. We want to make it easier for managers to utilize the product. We do all of those things. And then some managers go, I like to write on paper, or I don't understand this thing, and I don't understand that thing. And the people go, well, I don't even know how to put my information in there. And what does this even do? And what does that even do? No, even though you've done the training, you've done the communication plans, you've put all kinds of things in place, you just get some people who just want to stay old school. But the process is moving forward. This is the way the bus is going, though. And this is why the bus is going this way, because we want to be inclusive and we want everyone to belong. So in order for that to happen, you need to get on the bus. Tell me what you need in order for me to help you get on the bus, because I can't have you hanging out the door, because one of the prerequisites of safety of Agile is that we create safe spaces, right? Not just psychologically safe, but physically safe. And we can't do that if you're not willing to step on the bus with us. So in order for you to take this journey, you need to tell me what I need to do in order to make that happen for you. If you are getting nowhere, even despite your level best efforts, and you start to feel for one moment like that truck that is tracking itself in the mud continuously, then you have to let them go. It hurts because they may have a whole bunch of knowledge and expertise and experience that you need, but if they're not willing to move forward with you, you have to leave them behind. And then sometimes those people are not even the loudest people. Sometimes the loudest voice in the room is not speaking for everybody. So you have to be able to understand, well, with or without you, we moving forward. And if you can't get on board with this, then we have to take the necessary steps in place to put someone in place that will be on the bus.
Thank you so much, Julie. And I will hand you back over to Dawn. So over to you, Dawn.
Julie, you had me cracking up. You're on your bus and they hang out the bus, and so you called me out, and so everyone knew that I was cracking up. But I want to thank you so much, and I want to thank Cherise for doing an excellent job today moderating. But Julie, fantastic. Thank you again. The resources that you promised to share, of course, we will try to ensure that persons today, once we have their email addresses, you would get the links and the books that you recommended. So thank you so much again for being here, and we look forward to seeing you in our programs. Yeah, so thank you. And great. For everyone who participated today, asked questions, who stayed to listen, I want to thank you for joining us. And remember, sign up for our August offerings. We have Finance for Non-Finance, we have Emotional Intelligence, and a new program called Bridging the Generational Gap, which I am sure that last question that was asked by, I think it was Narendra, could possibly help a few persons, get unstuck and see new ways to move forward. So also, look, you can log in on our new website, new and improved and evolving website at www.masseylearninginstitute.com. You will see a lot more there and a lot more coming. So until next time, thank you for being with us, for bearing with us, and remember to continue to level up. Have a great day. Thank you.